The land trembled beneath the weight of a predator whose presence shaped the destiny of all who share its world. Shadows stretched as it moved through the forest with silent purpose. Its eyes burned with hunger, its claws sharp with promise. This was not a beast of myth, but a master of survival. The Gasosaurus hunted with precision, striking where weakness lived. Its rule was not born from chance, but from instinct written across countless generations. Life feared its breath. Death followed its stride. And so began the age where one name echoed across the ancient wilds. Gasosaurus. The late Jurassic world stretched wide and untamed. Valleys rolled in green waves where ferns rose taller than men would ever stand. Forests crowded together in endless lines or canopies, spreading like a ceiling that filtered the sun into golden beams. The air was heavy with warmth and thick with the sound of insects. Rivers carved silver scars through stone and mud-feeding lakes that mirrored the sky. Storm clouds sometimes gathered at the ridges and poured rain until the land itself seemed to breathe with steam. It was a world alive and restless. Within this land, giants moved. Long-necked sauropods lumbered across the plains, their bodies towering above trees, their steps slow yet unshaken. Herds of stegosaurs followed trails, defeating grounds, their tails bristling with deadly spikes. High above the canopy, pterosaurs rode the currents of wind, their wings stretched wide against the light. The ground shook beneath their passage, yet among them walked a predator smaller, but no less deadly. The Gasosaurus. Gasosaurus was not the size of the greatest carnivores. It did not rival the colossal Allosaurus that sometimes roamed these lands. It was sleek, swift, built for speed and precision. Its body measured less than 4 meters from snout to tail tip, yet every muscle carried the weight of survival. Sharp claws tipped its arms, teeth curved within its narrow jaws, each one perfect for piercing flesh and pulling free to life a prey. Where the giants relied on bulk, the Gasosaurus relied on agility. It was a shadow that struck when the herd was weakest and disappeared before vengeance could fall. The forest knew its steps. Smaller reptiles darted into undergrowth as its shadow passed. Mammals no larger than a hand scurried to burrows. Birds scattered from branches in sudden bursts of wings. The predator carried silence with it. Its gaze scanned with fierce intent, always searching for small mistake that meant opportunity. On this day, the Gasosaurus moved near a clearing where a herd of young sauropods lingered. The larger adults had wandered further toward a watering place, leaving behind smaller ones guarded only by a few cautious watchers. Their long necks swayed above the trees, their tails lashed against flies that swarmed in clouds. The Gasosaurus lowered its body, pressing against ferns as it crept forward. It did not need to kill the strong. It needed only one who strayed or stumbled. Patience was its greatest ally. It waited as hours turned and the sun shifted across the sky. Insects droned. Frogs croaked in the mud. The herd shifted positions in slow rhythm, unaware that shadowed eyes followed every move. The Gasosaurus muscles coiled like springs. Its tail swayed, slightly countering each slow step. Far to the west the land rose into sharp ridges. The sound of distant calls carried across the air low, booming cries of sauropods that shook leaves loose from branches. To the east, the forest thickened into swamp where crocodile-like hunters slid beneath the surface, waiting for prey to drink. Gasosaurus lived between these worlds, both forest and plain, both shadow and strike. It was not the only hunter here. The Allosaurs roamed further north, leaving trails of blood behind. Small packs of ceratosaurs prowled in the swamps, their jaws snapping in sudden ambushes. Each predator shaped by the land, each predator forced to carve his place in the endless struggle. For Gasosaurus, survival meant cunning. It could not overpower the strongest, but it could outwit them. The herd stirred. One young sauropod strayed too far toward the edge of the clearing. Its steps uncertain, its head turning often as if unsure of its path. The watchers called in low notes, but the young one hesitated, confused between herd and curiosity. The Gasosaurus froze and lowered further. Its eyes locked on the target. Breath slowed. The world narrowed to a single path. But the strike did not come. Not yet. The air shifted with new sound. From the distance came sharp cries, a kind that belonged to hunters smaller than Gasosaurus, yet no less fierce. Ornitholestes moved through the forest in groups quick and agile. Their voices pierced the clearing, causing the herd to tighten. The young one returned to safety, pressed against the bodies of its kin. The Gasosaurus hissed low, almost silent. Opportunity lost. Yet it did not retreat. It turned its gaze toward the forest where the cries echoed. Rivals had entered its ground. Hunger could wait, but territory could not. This was the law. The predator slid back into shadow, moving between ferns and vines. Each step was silent, each motion hidden. Its nostrils flared, catching the scent of the newcomers carried by the breeze. They were near. The Gasosaurus quickened its pace, though its body stayed low. The hunt had shifted from prey to rival. In the forest, darkness thickened. Sunlight broke only in thin beams across the ground. Insects buzzed close to ears. The cries grew louder. Branches shook. Soon shapes appeared between the trees. The Ornitholestes pack wove through trunks, their slender bodies quick, their heads darting as they searched for food. They were bold within this land. Bold enough to forget they were not alone. The Gasosaurus stopped. Its eyes followed every move. The pack drew closer unaware. Tension spread across its muscles like fire. Patience remained, but only for a moment longer. For Gasosaurus, this was survival. It was not only hunter of prey, but guardian of place. To share too much meant weakness. To defend meant rule. And in this world, only the strong, the cunning, the patient survived. The forest held its breath. The first steps of conflict stirred. The age of Gasosaurus had begun. The forest whispered as morning light spilled across the land. Mist clung to the ferns and dripped from high branches. Small reptiles skittered across wet leaves. Mammals no larger than a fist darted from roots to burrows in quick, desperate movements. The world woke in restless harmony. Yet beneath the canopy, one creature moved with purpose sharper than hunger alone. The Gasosaurus stalked the ground, its body weaving through undergrowth, its eyes fixed on scents carried by the damp air. The Ornitholestes pack had passed through the night before. Their cries had echoed sharp, like knives across the silence. Gasosaurus had not forgotten. Rivals left trails, and trails invited confrontation. The predator followed prints pressed into soft soil. Each step told a story. The pack had moved in search of easy prey, perhaps lizards or fish near the stream. Yet their path cut too close to territory that the Gasosaurus claimed. Territory was not just ground. It was water and shade, and the trails prey used to move. To lose control was to risk starvation. The Gasosaurus pressed forward faster, now its tail counterbalancing each stride. It paused at a ridge where the soil dipped into a clearing thick with reeds. Here the pack had gathered. Tracks overlapped. The smell of blood lingered faint but real. They had killed here. A hiss rattled from the predator's throat, though no ear but its own heard. Anger was instinct. Rivals had fed where it should have ruled. The Gasosaurus lowered its head, nostrils flaring. From deeper within the clearing, movement stirred. Shadows flickered through reeds. Then one of the pack stepped into view, its narrow body glistening with damp, its jaws stained faint red. The Ornitholestes froze. Its eyes caught the Gasosaurus instantly. For a moment neither moved. Wind swayed reeds. Insects hummed. Then the pack member gave a sharp call. At once shapes emerged from cover, 1, 2, 3 more weaving in from shadows. They circled not with courage, but with numbers. Gasosaurus tensed. It was larger, stronger, its jaws heavier, its claws longer. Yet they were quick together, cunning in movement. They darted left and right, snapping at air, testing distance. Gasosaurus did not lunge. It pivoted slow, its tail swinging like a heavy counterweight. Its eyes tracked them all. The pack gave sharp cries, trying to unnerve the predator. The forest rang with their challenge. The first strike came sudden. One darted forward, snapping at a hind leg. Gasosaurus lashed back, with a clawed arm raking across its side. Blood spattered dark across ferns. The injured rival shrieked and darted back, but the others surged in. Teeth grazed the Gasosaurus' flank, leaving shallow marks. Pain flared, but fury followed. It lunged, jaws wide. Its teeth closed around one of the pack, crushing bone with brutal force. The cry ended in silence. The body dropped limp. Gasosaurus dragged the fallen rival into deeper cover. It fed not from hunger alone, but from instinct. To waste food was weakness. Flesh tore under its teeth, muscles ripped clean from bone. It swallowed chunks whole. The forest absorbed the sound of tearing flesh, as it always had. Soon only bones and scraps remained. The predator rested in shadow after the kill. Breath slowed, eyes half closed, yet ears alert. The forest never slept. Even as one rival felt others would rise. It lay in silence through the afternoon, letting wounds clot and muscles steady. Insects swarmed but were shaken off with twitching skin. Life pressed on. By evening, hunger returned faint but real. The Gasosaurus rose, stretching muscles scarred by the skirmish. It moved again toward the plains where prey gathered at dusk. The air cooled. Light softened into long shadows. Herds of small ornithopods grazed near the edges of trees, their heads lifting often, their tails flicking in rhythm. The predator slowed, its body lowered close to ground. Each step silent, each motion measured. Its eyes locked on a straggler near the edge of the herd, a juvenile not yet strong enough to sense full danger. Gasosaurus pressed closer, hidden by ferns. Breath slowed. The world narrowed again. With sudden force, it surged forward. Legs drove against soil, tail balancing speed. The herd bolted in chaos, their calls shrill, their feet pounding earth. Dust rose in clouds. The straggler stumbled. Gasosaurus closed jaws, snapping around its flank. Flesh gave way under pressure. The prey cried once in silence as blood filled air. The herd fled into distance, leaving predator and kill behind. The Gasosaurus fed swift and ruthless, tearing meat, swallowing chunks. Each bite fueled strength, each drop a blood marked victory. Yet even as it fed, the forest stirred. The kill's scent carried far. Crocodile-like hunters stirred in the river. Pterosaurs circled above, lowering in slow spirals. Scavengers always followed death. The predator dragged its kill into cover, once more hiding from open eyes. It fed until full. Then it left remains for others. Balance demanded it. Life fed life. Days passed into rhythm. Gasosaurus hunted, rested, patrolled. Rivals tested borders, yet did not linger long after the pack's loss. Hunger drove, every move patience guarded, every step. Still danger never vanished. In shadows larger hunters roamed. One afternoon the earth trembled faint. From the distance came a deep call, heavy as thunder. The Allosaurus. Its voice rolled across plains, sending flocks of birds bursting from trees. Even the herd stirred restless. Gasosaurus froze, listening. The sound came again, closer this time. Allosaurus was near. Fear did not rule, but caution did. Gasosaurus moved deeper into forest, its body weaving quick through trunks. It knew it could not stand against a giant. To fight would mean death. To endure meant yielding ground. Yet yielding left danger. If the giant pressed further, prey would scatter and territory would shrink. Night fell heavy. The forest lit with stars above, gaps in canopy. Gasosaurus crouched low, listening to distant roars of Allosaurus, each one a reminder of its place. It was swift and sharp, but not supreme. It must survive in the space between giants and shadows. Hunger sharpened once more as dawn broke. The predator followed trails to the river. Herds gathered there, their bodies reflected in calm water. Stegosaurs drank, tails twitching, spiked, and dangerous. Ornithopods gathered in flocks, lowering heads to sip. Crocodiles drifted near surface, their eyes cold above water. The Gasosaurus lingered at the edge, scanning. It would not strike large prey, not with so many watchers. But among the crowd, one smaller creature strayed. A young ornithopod stepped near reeds, distracted by dragonflies. Gasosaurus struck swift. It burst from covered jaws, clamping on the neck. The prey collapsed instantly. Blood spread across water. Herds screamed and scattered. Crocodiles surged, but too slow. Gasosaurus dragged kill into forest. The meal was quick, efficient, clean. Hunger eased once again. But scent lingered and always drew more. Hours later, as the predator rested near its kill, rustling stirred nearby. Eyes opened sharp. From shadows, a new shape appeared. Not Ornitholestes, not crocodile, not Allosaurus. It was another Gasosaurus. For a moment, silence hung between them. Same species, same hunger, same claim. They circled, wary eyes fixed, tails stiff. This was not prey nor pack. This was challenge. Territory could not hold two for long. The rising action had reached its edge. The forest grew still. The confrontation waited. Balance trembled. The forest stilled as the two predators faced one another. Wind hushed between branches. Insects quieted, as if sensing what was about to unfold. The earth beneath them seemed to hold its breath. One Gasosaurus stood scarred from battles past, eyes sharp and body taut with tension. The other was younger, leaner, yet fierce, its tail swaying slow, like a pendulum. They circled in the dim light of morning, each step deliberate, each gaze unbroken. Neither lunge at once, for both understood the cost. A misstep would not mean retreat, but death. Territory, food, and future lay on the edge of every movement. The older predator lowered its head, jaws parted in a hiss. Scars along its flank told stories of rivals already defeated. It had survived seasons when prey grew scarce and storms ripped through the valley. It had claimed this ground with tooth and claw. The younger one did not care. Hunger drove it forward. Instinct whispered that only by taking ground could it thrive. The forest was not wide enough for both. The first strike broke silence. The younger surged forward with speed, jaws snapping at the throat. The older twisted aside, tail whipping in counterbalance. Teeth closed on empty air. In return, claws slashed across the younger's shoulder, leaving red trails. A cry tore through the forest, sharp and raw. Birds burst from trees in alarm. They clashed again, bodies colliding with force that shook soil. Jaws locked for a moment, each trying to drive teeth deeper. Blood streaked the ground. The younger pulled free, circling again, chest heaving. The older's breath came slow, but steady. It stepped forward, pressing the rival back. Each motion carried weight, like stone pressing down. The fight turned brutal. Claws raked scales. Teeth snapped and tore. They rolled across the ground, kicking up ferns and dust. The younger was faster, darting in and out, leaving shallow cuts. Yet the older was patient, striking when openings appeared, sinking teeth into flesh that could not be spared. Blood flowed heavy, painting the soil dark. Pain echoed in their cries. The forest trembled with the raw violence of survival. No herd lingered nearby, no scavenger dared approach. This was not just combat. It was judgment. Only one would leave standing. The younger leapt once more, jaws closing on the older's flank. Teeth tore deep. The older roared in agony, twisting with furious strength. Its tail whipped around, striking with bone-snapping force. The blow sent the rival sprawling into undergrowth. Branches snapped beneath its fall. For a moment, silence returned, broken only by harsh breathing. But the younger rose again, limping yet unbroken. Its eyes still burned. Hunger and defiance gave it strength. It rushed once more, though its body faltered under wounds. The older met the charge head-on. Jaws clamped around a rival's neck. Muscles strained, veins bulged, eyes wild. The younger thrashed, kicking claws, slicing across chest and arms. But the grip tightened, unrelenting. For long moments the struggle held suspended. Then with one final crushing force, the older snapped down. A sickening crack split the air. The younger's body went limp, its cries silenced. The forest fell into stillness once more. The victor released the body, stepping back, blood dripping from jaws. Breath came ragged yet triumphant. Wounds stung across its body, but instinct pulsed with victory. Territory was secure. Rivalry was ended. It had proven strength once more. The fallen lay in shadow, its life given to the law of the land. Yet victory did not bring peace. The scent of blood spread thick across the air. Already wings circled above as pterosaurs descended in slow spirals. From the river, crocodile-like hunters stirred, moving closer. Scavengers crept from undergrowth, eyes gleaming with hunger. The Gasosaurus growled, low chest rumbling deep. It would feed first. It had earned this. It dragged the rival's body into cover, tearing flesh with heavy jaws. Blood coated its teeth, dripping onto earth. Each bite restored strength, each swallow fueling survival. It fed until breath steadied, until wounds no longer throbbed with weakness. Around it the forest crept nearer, waiting for scraps. When at last the predator stepped back, only bones and torn sinew remained. Pterosaurs screeched as they descended, claiming what was left. Mammals darted close, snatching fragments. Life continued its endless cycle. One had fallen, another endured. The Gasosaurus moved away, limping yet alive. Its body bore new scars etched deep across hide. But its spirit burned unbroken. It had faced rival blood and prevailed. In this world of giants, it had proven again that cunning and strength mattered more than size. The sun rose higher, casting gold across the canopy. The predator emerged into light, its shadow stretching long across ground. The forest belonged to it once more. Rivals had been silenced, prey still wandered, and its place carved in survival remained unshaken. For now the Gasosaurus ruled. The forest slowly returned to its rhythm after the storm of violence. Leaves rustled in gentle wind. Birds called again from branches, as if the cries of combat had been forgotten. Small mammals darted through roots and ferns, their tiny lives unbroken by the clash that had shaken the ground. Yet for the Gasosaurus silence carried a deeper weight. It walked with slow steps, each movement careful, each breath measured. Its wounds burned yet held steady. It had survived. The body of the rival no longer remained. Scavengers had stripped it clean through the night. Bones lay scattered across soil pale against green undergrowth. Life had moved on, feeding from death, as it always had. For the predator, this was no victory to be celebrated, but a reminder carved into flesh. Every challenge carried risk. Every moment demanded vigilance. In this world, balance never rested. Gasosaurus moved to the territory it had defended. The scent of its rival still lingered faint, but fading beneath the smell of rain-soaked earth. Storm clouds gathered above, casting gray light across canopy. The predator lifted its head, letting cool drops fall on scarred skin. Water washed away blood and dirt, leaving new scars visible like marks of honor. They were proof of trials endured and proof of survival. It paused at the ridge where once it had hunted. Herds grazed again near the plains, unaware or uncaring of the struggle that had raged nearby. Ornithopods lowered heads to nibble shoots, tails flicking in restless rhythm. Farther off, stegosaurs moved with heavy-weight spikes glinting wet with rain. Life continued indifferent to battles of predators. Prey had their own fears, their own challenges. Gasosaurus watched from shadow, without moving. It was not hunger that guided it now, but reflection. Territory was more than ground to fight for. It was streams that carried fresh water. It was shade that shielded heat. It was trails carved by prey as they passed through ferns and valleys. Every patch of land was life itself. To hold it meant survival. To lose it meant decline. The fight with its rival had reminded the predator of this truth. Each day brought new risks, and only those who endured without faltering could keep their claim. The rain deepened, falling steady across forest floor. Gasosaurus moved to a hollow beneath leaning trunks where soil stayed dry. It rested, lowering its body with care. Muscles trembled, but strength remained. Its eyes closed, though ears twitched alert. In half-sleep, it dreamed not with images, but with instinct. Memories of hunts and battles passed through mind like scents on wind. Hunger, victories, pain, all wove together into the single drive of existence. When dawn broke again, the storm had passed. Sunlight returned sharp and clean, spilling golden across dripping leaves. The Gasosaurus rose, shaking water from its body. Hunger returned faint, but pressing. It moved once more into the waking forest. Trails stretched outward, marked by herds that had passed at night. The predator followed slowly ahead, low nostrils flaring. It came upon a small clearing where fresh tracks pressed into mud. A juvenile ornithopod had lingered here, its scent still sharp in the air. Gasosaurus crouched, lowering its body close to soil. Muscles coiled ready. Yet as it prepared to strike, the sound of distant calls reached its ears. Flocks of pterosaurs wheeled overhead, screaming across the sky. They circled something far beyond trees. The predator hesitated. Instinct urged caution. Larger hunters stirred when flocks grew restless. The memory of Allosaurus echoed in his mind, the deep thunderous roar that had shaken the land days before. To chase easy prey now could mean crossing paths with something greater. Gasosaurus drew back, letting the trail fade. Hunger could wait. Survival demanded patience. Through the afternoon it moved along riverbanks, watching crocodiles drift near surface. Fish darted below their shadows. The air smelled of wet reeds and life blooming after storm. Here the Gasosaurus drank, lowering its head to clear water. Ripples spread across reflection, scars glimmering beneath sunlight. It drank deep, then lifted its head, scanning horizon. The land was vast, yet full of hidden dangers. To endure here was triumph enough. As evening fell, the forest filled with sound once more. Herds moved toward resting grounds. Insects hummed in growing shadows. Gasosaurus settled near the ridge, overlooking valley. From here it could see across its domain. This ground was secure again for now. Rivals had been defeated, prey still moved territory, remained under its rule. Yet it knew the cycle would never end. Another challenger would rise one day, perhaps stronger, perhaps faster. Balance would be tested again. But tonight the predator stood alone, unbroken by fight, unshaken by scars. Its shadow stretched long across the ground as stars lit the sky. Life pulsed all around in every cry and movement. Gasosaurus remained still, breathing deep, tasting air heavy with promise. Survival was never victory. It was persistence. And persistence was enough. The forest belonged to no one and to everyone. Yet within it one predator had carved its place. It had fought, endured, fed, and lived. Tomorrow would bring hunger again. Tomorrow might bring rivals again. But for this moment, beneath the rising stars, Gasosaurus endured. Night stretched wide across the valley. Stars shimmered above like silent witnesses to the endless cycle below. The forest had quieted once more, yet the echo of past battles lingered in the still air. Gasosaurus stood on the ridge where shadow met starlight, its body scarred, its spirit unyielding. The predator breathed slow, tasting the cool wind that carried scents of prey, rivers, and life without end. Its eyes reflected the faint glow of moon. It was not thought that guided it, but instinct, the ancient voice that whispered to every creature since the dawn of time. Survive, endure, live. The scars along its body told stories that words never could. Each mark was a memory of conflict, each wound a lesson carved into flesh. Yet the Gasosaurus remained whole, because survival was not about strength alone. It was patience, cunning, and will. It was a choice to rise again even when struck down. Below, the ridge herd stirred in the darkness. Ornithopods moved as shadows across fields. Stegosaurs shifted their massive forms in uneasy slumber. Life continued without pause, each creature bound to its own fragile thread of existence. Predator and prey danced in the same rhythm, one shaping the fate of the other. Without one, the other could not endure. Gasosaurus turned away from the view and descended back into the forest. It vanished into the night, blending with trees and silence. Tomorrow it would hunt again. Tomorrow the cycle would continue. Rivals would rise, hunger would return, storms would sweep across the land. Yet none of it would break the rhythm, for in this ancient world survival was the only truth. The predator did not know its place in history, nor the shadow it would leave in stone. Yet its every step, its every breath would echo far beyond its time. Long after its bones turned to rock, long after its name was whispered by winds of future ages, the story of Gasosaurus would remain. The valley slept, but the age of predators endured. And within that age, one name carried through the night: Gasosaurus.